when he competed at Europeans on 1 meter. We have another diver, the other Italian diver, Lorenzo Marsaglia, has had 2 medals in this event, third in 2019 and second in 2022. And another medal has been won in this event by James Italy in 2018 when he was diving in his home pool in Edinburgh during the European Aquatics Championship of Glasgow 2018. So yeah, some very well experienced divers, but also a rookie here on the board. Jake Passmore is ready to start this final. The youngest diver of this event, 18 years old, from Dublin. And Jake starts his competition with a forward 2.5 somersault full twist. Well executed, extremely fast, getting up in the air, very, very high. Good quick jump up in the air. We see the feet placement was perfect in the end of the board. And a nice lineup. Could have waited a little bit longer. We see it here. Could have waited a little bit longer coming out of the somersault. It came out way too early before the end of the first somersault. So he had to squeeze very much the pike position after the twist in order to get vertical. 6.5 and 7 for him. Alexander Lube. Back 2.5 somersault tuck. Alexander did a great job coming back within the top 12 ranked divers this morning after he struggled in the first 2 dives, scoring less than 46 points on both of them. 40 on the first one, this one that we're watching right now, and 45 on the second dive, and then came back with a really strong performance after in the following dives. And again, he doesn't get a very good top on his back 2.5 somersault tuck. He doesn't finish the jump, doesn't complete the push off the board with his legs, and tries to hold on as long as possible to the tuck. He does a much better job this afternoon than this morning. 51 points for her, just 5.5 and 6s for him on this dive. Better than this morning. Forward 2.5 somersault full twist for James Italy. James fell behind in the rankings due to a big mistake in his third dive, the reverse 2.5 somersault tuck, but here this afternoon he is for sure aiming for a medal. Let's see how he starts his final. Well executed, extremely strong coming down from the hurdle. He presses the board very, very hard and his feet are completely in the water. Well executed twist. The entry is a bit too short to have very, very high scores, but 7s from the judges. Overall, a very good job considering also the high degree of difficulty on this dive. So 67.20 on the first dive, straight 7s by the judges. And now on the board, Alberto Arevalo. Forward 2.5 somersault pike. Very high, extremely high jump up in the air. Too bad he didn't complete the dive with a great entry in the water. He left it a little bit short. Came out perfect timing. When he got in the water, he didn't get a perfect placement of the hands in the water. Still a high scoring dive considering the lower degree of difficulty. And a total of 59.80 for him on his first dive. Now on the board is Jonathan Sukov, inward 2.5 somersault tuck. Jonathan, as well as Alexander Lube, did an excellent comeback. On the last two dives, he scored above 65 points because he needed those points because he started not so well with his first two dives. In this particular dive, he scored only 49 points in the morning. And he does much better with this dive. Kind of the same mistake, though, that he made in the morning. He is very high and fast in the somersault. The mistake happens at the very bottom when he was supposed to get all the way straight. But he didn't. He stayed a little bit piked. This could have scored much, much more if he would have let the dive get in the water perfectly straight. 7th from the judges, 65-10, and now he's second. And now on the board is Danilo Konovalov, front 2.5 somersault pike. Good job with this dive. Same as Alberto, the Spanish diver, a few dives ago. He goes very, very high. This is an easier dive. So that's one thing that divers want to show on easier dives is that they take their time in order to go as high as possible. Take their time on the board while jumping. Wait all the way for the board to come back all the way up. And he does a good job lining up, better than Alberto. And the entry is quite clean. 8 from the judges on this dive, 62-40 for the Ukrainian diver. Now on the board is a silver medalist from Rome 2022, Lorenzo Marsaglia, inward 2.5 somersault tuck. $60 points for him this morning on this dive. A good job with this dive. I was telling you before how divers have to wait all the way for the board to bring them back as high as possible. He left the board with his feet before it was even horizontal. So this makes the dive stay a little bit lower than what he wanted. Still a very good job lining that up and getting a good entry. 7.5 from the judges. He was missing just a little bit of the jump of the elevation from the board. 69.75, and he gets ahead of everyone. Jules Bouyer now, inward 2.5 somersault tuck for him as well. Jules is has already won medal from this European Championship in Sheshov. He's looking for his second one on 1 meter. Excellent job. Much higher and closer to the board than Lorenzo, who dove right before him. From my position, he should get higher score than Italian on this dive, especially also because the lineup is very clean. Very nice entry, completely disappears, and we see Team France cheering for him. 8 from the judges, 74-40, and now Jules is ahead of everyone. His teammate Alexis Gendard, same dive, once again the inward 2.5 somersault tuck. Nice dive, very fast in the somersault. Compared to his teammate, though, he does not get an excellent entry. Splashes a little bit more, and but don't get me wrong, it is a great top part of the dive. And the judges give him 7.5 and 8. Yeah, as I said, not as good as his teammate Jules, just because of the splashes entering in the water. Other than that, it was a great performance on this dive. Inward 1.5 pike flying for Ross Haslam. We have seen this dive performed also by him and also by Andrei Sheshutek this morning in prelims, and I explained the audience how this dive works. Is flying because the first half somersault has to be executed completely in a straight position and then gets in a pike position. We'll see it here. And not as well as this morning, technically. This morning did a better job getting exactly in a straight position off the board at the beginning. Here we see how his hips move back a little bit too early, and that causes the dive to be slightly short. Good overall execution of the entry. 7.5 for him, 63.80 for Ross. And Ross is in, let me see, Ross is in 7th place at the moment. Moritz Weissman, our 3-meter European champion here in Shashov. He starts his competition with a back 2.5 somersault tuck. Lowest scoring dive of his event this morning. And he does a good job getting that vertical. This is technically a very hard dive because it requires both a lot of strength from the jump and also good technique to line up correctly in not that much space that the divers have to complete this dive. So a great job by the German diver. 7s from the judges and 63 total points. Is in 8th place. Now Giovanni Tocci, his easiest dive today, 2.6 degree of difficulty, forward 2.5 somersault pike. Scored 63 points this morning. That will put him around 7th or 8th place. Let's see how he does. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Especially the entry was perfect. No splashes at all. We see how he reaches up with his hands and arms. The pike position is perfect. And a nice entry. Probably the only thing I would say is not a 10 because it's slightly too far from the board. But we hear him getting 8.5s and 9s. 66.30 for Giovanni on his first dive. Is very well executed, and he's in 5th place right now. We have the standings after the first round of dives, and we have the French divers in front of everyone else. Jules in 1st and Alexis Jandard in 2nd, and Lorenzo Marsaglia in 3rd at 69 points, and all the rest of the divers falling. It's just the first round of dives. This competition, hopefully, just like all the other finals this week, will be decided at the very last dive, and we sure hope that's the case again here, because that makes things very more interesting and exciting. And now Jake Passmore from Ireland, who was in 7th before this dive, and then he's going to show us an inward 2.5 somersault tuck, 3.1 degree of difficulty. And that is not lined up very well. It wasn't bad off the board, probably a little bit too far back with his hips before jumping. So that creates a little distance between him and the board. But the biggest mistake on this one is that he grabs at his hands right away after he comes out of the tuck position. He never gets all the way straight when he gets vertical in the water. 6.5, 60.45 points, and Jake is at 124 right now. Alexander Lube from Germany, reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. Good job, very well executed. He is very strong We see how his toes are in the water here. Very good top. Nice, clean tuck position. And just an arch in the entry that causes the rip not to be perfect, but not bad at all. Much, much better than this morning when he got 45 points. Here are 66 the points on this dive for him. 117 points for the German diver. James Heatley from Great Britain, reverse 1.5 somersault, 2.5 twist, 3.0 degree of difficulty. Takes a long time before starting the dive. A little mistake here from James. Yeah, a little mistake. Not too bad. He recovered very well in the air, but we saw his hurdle. He landed back on the board completely to the left. He had to rush off the board, not to lose balance even more, and he's way too far from the springboard. That rush he had to do off the board caused him to leave the board when the board was still tilted down, and he pushed it too far out. 6.5, 57 points on this dive, and that's not what he wanted. Especially, yeah, he scored less than this morning, 3 points less. He could have done much, much better. Alberto Arevalo now for 3.5 somersault tuck for the Spanish diver from Madrid. And a great execution by Alberto. We see the Spanish coaches cheering for him, because even though he was off rhythm on the board, he went all the way up in the air, squeezed the tuck position very well. Nice lineup and perfect entry. 8s for him from the judges. And excellent, excellent execution of this dive. With just this dive, he scored 14 more points than this morning, 15 more points than this morning. Excellent dive by the Spanish diver, who is in first place at the moment. Jonathan Sukov now. Same dive for him. Ooh, even better. I gotta say, this looked even better than the Spanish diver. Very high. The hurdle was perfect, great timing, and the entry is super clean. You see it here, no splashes at all. And ooh, disagreement by the judges here. Not just with me, but also between them. There are an 8 and 9 and even a 7. So disagreement there. But 7.5 are the 3 scores, the other scores that count. 67.50, and I gotta say, I would have gone a little bit higher than that if I would have been a judge. Again, I'm up here, they're down there. They probably saw better than me. Inward 2.5 somersault tuck now for Danilo Konovalov. Nice dive all the way until the entry. Not as clean as possible. We see the takeoff is very well executed. The distance between him and the board is perfect. The entry just rolls over a little bit. Quite a bit if you wanted more than 7s. 65.10 total points for him. Is in third place right now. And now Lorenzo Marzaglia, reverse 1.5 somersault, 2.5 twists. We saw his teammates and his coach Benedetta Molaioli. He needs 7s to be ahead of everyone else as of right now. Ooh, nice. Probably a little sideways from the hurdle. We'll see it better if we have the front camera. Yeah, from here we see he jumped a little bit towards the right side of the board. but does a great job getting all the way vertical, and Lorenzo gets what he needed to be ahead of everyone now. Yeah, his feet, he lost control of his feet at the end of that twist. We see Chiara Pelacani, his teammate, cheering for him. 7.5, 67.50, and he has a 5-point advantage, 4.5 points advantage ahead of Jonathan Sukov. And now the first of the two French divers that dive back-to-back, forward 3.5 somersault tuck for Jules Bouyer. Another great entry, but this time around Jules struggles a little bit with the hurdle. Off timing here when he lands back on the board, and he goes quite distant from the springboard. He's very clean. The entry rolls a little bit over, even though it doesn't splash very much. For that kind of takeoff, very, very high. If he would have kept it closer, this dive would have gone for 9s, would have received 9s as awards, but 7.5, 67.50, and he seems happy with that. Second dive for his teammate. Now Alexis Gendard. It is also a front 3.5 somersault tuck. They have the exact same list. We'll see them perform the exact same dives except for the reverse 2.5 somersault, because Alexis will do it pike while Jules does it tuck. Oh, this dive is beautiful. This dive is beautiful. Very high as his teammate, even closer, and a perfect timing. Oh, look how deep the water gets in the water. The springboard gets in the water. Nice pike come out and a perfect straight position in the water. 8 from the judges. And I don't know, maybe it's just me that I'm getting excited because it's a final, but I would have gone 8.5 if I had to judge this dive. But again, that's not my job. I'm just up here and I'm enjoying this final with you. 8 for the French diver, 72 points, 143.30, and he gets ahead of Jules in first place. Ross Haslam now back 2.5 somersault tuck. He needs 9s to be ahead of Alexis. Sorry about that. He was at 63 points before this dive. Oh, what a nice entry. Probably not 9s, but this is the best back 2.5 somersault tuck we have seen so far today between prelims and final. Excellent, excellent kick out of the tuck position, and look how clean this entry is. Amazing job, and it is the best back 2.5 somersault tuck we've seen today. Total score of 67.50 for the British diver. Excellent job with this very hard dive. Very hard, not just because of the D's 3.0, but also technically. It's amazing what he has done on this dive. Excellent, excellent job. And let's see how Moritz responds to that. Moritz needs 9s to get ahead of Alexis. No, huge mistake for the German diver. Huge, huge mistake. This is probably too big of a mistake in a final of such a high level. He has to retake the hurdle. And also the dive goes way too far over. And with this mistake, even though Moritz has very high degree difficulty in the last two dives, this might cost him a lot. Way too late on the come out, way too far over with his legs, 3.5s and 4s, only 33 points. I gotta say he might have lost around 35 to 40 points just on this dive. Now Giovanni Tocci. Giovanni is going to perform a forward 2.5 somersault full twist, 3.2 degree of difficulty for the Italian diver that won prelims this morning. This is the second time that Giovanni in the final has to perform a dive right after the diver before him bogged and stopped and retook the hurdle. And a nice job by the Italian. A very good jump off the board. Elegant, sharp, perfect pike position. We see it here, perfect straight legs, nice and straight twist. He does not grab his hands, even though he had plenty of time to do that. You can notice here when he comes out, and here he kind of high fives with both hands the water. You see the reaction of Elena Bertocchi and Sara Jardin Di Maria of this dive. A good job, high scores, 139.90 for him, and he's in third place at the moment. We have the standings after 2 rounds of dives, and the French divers are again in first place. 143, 141, and then Giovanni Tocci at 139. Last place after 1 round for the 2 German divers. Morris with a huge mistake on the reverse 2.5 somersault is at 96 points. Let's move on now to the 3rd round of dives. We have Jake Passmore back 2.5 somersault tuck for the young Irish diver who was in 9th place after 2 rounds of dives. And not a bad top. He's very strong for being so young. He always gets very high after he jumps off the board. But this time around he keeps on spinning too fast. After he came out, he had too much rotation. And he reached too far back after the kick. His legs, we see it here, they go too far over. 6s from the judges. And 176.98 points, obviously in first since he has an extra dive. And we are just at the beginning of the competition. Well, not, we are halfway through now. We're getting halfway through, but not many dives have been performed. Alexander Lugo now, forward 3.5 somersault tuck. Beautiful dive once again. It seems to me just that dipping the board so much causes him to lose rhythm a little bit off the board, but he manages to get perfectly straight. Didn't grab his hands very well in the entry, and could have, see, he just placed them close together but doesn't grab them. The entry could have been better, but 7s from the judges, and a total of 180 points halfway through the competition for him. And now James Italy, reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. That's the dive that he completely missed in the morning. Let's see how he does. Just 35 points for him this morning on this dive. And many, many more this afternoon. You see Tony Ali cheering and whistling for him. Perfect feet position. The tip of the board gets in the water. And a good lineup for the British diver. 32 points more than this morning with just this dive, because he gets 7.5s from the judges and a total of 67.50 on this dive. Brings a total of 192.70 for him. Alberto Arevalo from Madrid, the diver from the Real Canoe club team. He's going to do a back 2.5 somersault tuck. He was in 6th place before this dive. Let's see how he does. And not bad. Gotta say, he's quite decent from the board. He leans back with his upper body and picks up his knees quite early when the board is still underneath the horizontal line, the parallel line with the water. So he's too far back. Even though he made that mistake, it's still vertical, not very clean the entry, but not a back 2.5 somersault tuck. 57 points. 188 points for him. He's in second place behind James Italy. See what Jonathan Sukov does. He was in 5th place after 2 dives. See what he does with the same exact dive as Alberto. And just like Alberto, he has a good top and doesn't get the cleanest of the entries possible. Nothing to complain about this takeoff. He's closer to the board than Alberto, still a little bit far. It's the bottom part that it just doesn't get perfect. We saw his legs going over. Even a 5 from the last judge, but that doesn't count. 6s, 6.5. Similar to the Spanish diver before him, and Jonathan is as well as at 188 points, less than a point behind Alberto. 188.80 for Alberto, 188.10 for Jonathan. Forward 3.5 somersault tuck for Danilo Konovalov. Another great top and another missed entry. Not missed, but that the only mistake about these past 3 dives that we have seen are especially in the lineup. Danilo is very high, spins extremely fast, comes out when there are still more than 2 meters to line up, and he keeps his chin down, keep on rolling. He made a type of lineup that usually divers do when they feel like they don't have enough room to enter vertical. So he kept it rolling. Total points of 189, and Danilo is right there, very close to Jonathan and Alberto that dove before him. They're all within less than a point. Lorenzo Marsaglia now, reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. A great job. Now we saw a better lineup in the water. Benedetta Molaioli happy with the performance of her diver. He picked up his knees instead of finishing the push from the board. So that means this dive could have gone even higher, but he does a great job lining it up perfectly vertical. 7.5 from the judges, and Lorenzo gets up at 203 total points in first place. And now Jules Bouyer from France. Second place for him after 2 rounds of dives. You see Clemence, his coach. Very focused, both the divers and the coach. Forward 2.5 somersault pike full twist. Another great vertical line in the entry. We see the reaction of the coaches. He was falling down from the hurdle and moved his upper body towards the water too early. He forced the press on the board with his upper body. That does not help the rhythm of the dive, and he kept it out of kept that movement, the motion forward with the upper body also in the lineup. 6.5 and 7, a little bit too far over for him, the entry, but he's still in first place. Now his teammate, let's see if Alexis was leading in front of Jules before. Let's see if he can create a little gap between him and the teammate. Same dive. Good, excellent execution in the air, but I gotta be honest, this is quite far from the board. He's leaning too far forward at the tip of the board, so a lot of distance between him and the board. Other than that, the dive is excellent, but he's not gonna get 8s, 8.5s because of the distance between him and the board. 7s from the judges. 67-20 for him right now. 210 total points for Alexis, 205 for Jules, 203 for Lorenzo Marsaglia at the moment. So Alexis doesn't take big advantage of the mistake from Jules. He also encounters a little mistake. Same dive by Ross Aslam now. And you can see how much closer this dive is from the board compared to the two French divers before him. Excellent execution, and also the entry is perfectly vertical. I like the shape in the air of this diver. Very, very nice, very sharp. 7.5s. We see the reaction of the coaches. Excellent dive by the British diver. 7.5s and 203.30 points, and he's back up there in the top 3 at the moment. Let's see Maurice. Maurice, unfortunately for him, because of the huge mistake in the previous round, has no chance of being back in the lead, not even in top 3. But I want to remind you that we will see him perform some very hard dives later on in the competition, so it's never over until it's over. A good inward 2.5 somersault tuck. Probably too quick off the board. His hips move backwards a bit before finishing the jump. You see it here. Hips back, creates some distance between him and the board. Maybe too much, and the legs are still short when getting in the water. Not perfect, but a great dive. 7.5 and 8s for him. 167. He is still trailing behind, but 71 points, more than many others in this round. Only Ross Haslam did better than that on this round, if I remember right. Back 2.5 somersault tuck by Giovanni Tocci. Giovanni was in 3rd and needs 8 to get in 1st place, and 7.1 average to be in 3rd after this dive. And he will not get that average. Unfortunately, he had a great top, but came out way too late, letting the dive go too far over. And this is a mistake, not big, not huge, but a mistake for the Italian, who definitely wanted his first gold medal in this event after getting 2 bronze and 2 silvers. 5.5, 6 and 6 by the judges. And he might know this could cost him a little bit. 52 points, and Giovanni's in 5th right now. We have the rankings after 3 rounds of dives. Alexis Gendard is once again in 1st place. Jules Bouyer in 2nd again. And now we have a new 3rd place with Ross Haslam. Still very interesting competition. The first 4 divers are within 7 points. Still very close. And still half the competition left to be executed, to be performed. Half the list of each diver. So 3 more rounds before we have the new European champion. Last year this event was won by Jack Law with 413 points. Oh, mistake on the hurdle for Jake. Looks like that didn't bother him. Very hard dive, the forward 3.5 somersault pike. Usually divers perform this dive on 3 meters. He's capable of making it quite easily, actually, because he completely missed the hurdle and still had plenty of room to get vertical. But that mistake on the hurdle drops his score to 6s from the judges, even a 4.5. That was too low. That was not a 4.5 in my opinion. 6s, as I said, 59.40 points for him, for Jake. Inward 2.5 somersault tuck for Alexander Lube now, who was in 10th place after 3 dives. Oh, nice. Especially the lineup was very well executed. The top part was good, not excellent. It could have jumped higher, but here he stops his legs from rotating, from somersaulting. Great lineup by the German diver from Aachen. And we see the German crowd cheering for him. 7.5s, 249.75. He's in the first place ahead of Jake Passmore right now. British crowd cheering on James Italy. A back 2.5 somersault tuck for the British diver, who was sitting in 6th place after 3 dives. He needs 6.5s to get ahead of Alexander Lube. And he might get just that. Probably no more than a 6.5 on this dive, due because the jump was not very high. The dive was quite low in the water when lining up. And yeah, just as I said, 6.5 is the average score that he gets. 58.50 for him. First place, just less than a point ahead of Alexander Lube. And now Alberto Arevalo from Madrid, forward 2.5 somersault, full twist. And if you remember from this morning preliminary round, Alberto, differently than the other divers, he does the twist first and then gets in the pike position. Nicely done, just not very clean in the water. The top part was good here, straight in the twist, nice pike position with straight legs. It's just arched in the water, doesn't get as clean as him and especially the coaches wanted. 6.5. You see the reaction of Domenico Rinaldi and Arturo Miranda. 6.5, 251 points. He's in first place right now. Jonathan Sukov, 9th place for him at 188 points after 3 dives. He was training a little bit behind. He wants perfection here. He wants to be back in the competition for a medal. Very good top. Very good top. I should have said nothing. But very great jump off the board. The distance was perfect. He comes out too early for such a slow somersault. It was very high. Look at here, almost at 5 meters. It just comes out too early. Kicks too low and the legs stay too short in the water when he enters the water. And I guess with this mistake, no chance of getting a medal for Jonathan today. 4.5, total 228 points. He is in 5th place at the moment, behind Jake Passmore. Danilo Konovalov now. Danilo is showing us back 2.5 somersault tuck on this 4th round of dives. And a short back 2.5 somersault for the young Ukrainian diver. Just 20 years old, Danilo. And yeah, we saw his arch in the back getting in the water. That makes the legs drop towards the water and land short. So 6.5 for the Ukrainian diver, 57 points, which is not too bad for this kind of dive, but slightly below average overall. So Danilo sits at 246 points in between Alexander Lube and Jake Passmore. They're all very close around there. Between the Danilo at 246 and Alberto at 251, just 5 points and 4 people within those 5 points. Lorenzo Marsaglia now, same dive for the Italian diver. This morning for Lorenzo, a total of 58 points on this dive. Ooh, probably more than that here this afternoon. Yeah, Benedetta seems happy with that, his coach. Chest slightly arched in the back when he got in the water, but yeah, the judges give him 6.5, so exactly the same score as the morning, 58-50. If I remember correctly, yes, 58-50, just like this morning. And Lorenzo is now ahead of everyone, 10 points advantage in front of Alberto Arevalo. Let's see how Jules Weir does his back 2.5 somersault tuck. The same dive that we'll also see performed by Alexis Gendard right after. And I gotta say, much better than Lorenzo. This dive seems like never decided to come back down. It stayed up in the air for a long time, very fast rotation. And look at that entry, was perfect. This now is the best back 2.5 somersault we've seen so far today. 69 points on this dive. Excellent, excellent execution by Jules. 274. He has a 13 points advantage in front of Lorenzo Marsaglia. And let's see what Alexis does with this dive. He needs an average of 7.2 from the judges to be ahead of Jules. And he's not gonna get that. Not gonna get that. Again, another dive by Alexis that falls too far behind. Look how much he moves his upper body when he's sitting for his squat. While he's squatting, his shoulders just move back, and this is a low scoring dive for him. And just 5.5 sixes, just one 5.5, that doesn't count, so 6.5 from the judges, and a total of 266 points. He's now 8, almost 9 points behind his teammate Jules. That's not a huge gap, though. It's a gap, but not very big, because with high degree of difficulty dives, anything could happen. Let's see this 3.3 degree of difficulty dive by Ross Haslam, forward 3.5 somersault pike. Wow, very high and perfect pike position. He could have squeezed that a little bit more, not more, but he could have put his upper body closer to the legs. We see how he's a little bit wide, but is a very strong execution of this dive. This is going to score him a lot of points, and he's most likely going to take the lead. He is going to take the lead. 74.25 points on this dive. 277, 3 points ahead, 2.5 points ahead of Jules Boyer. Wow, great round. This was a great round. A lot of divers have performed the back 2.5 somersault tuck in a great way. And now Maurice Weissman from 3.5 somersault tuck for German diver. And again, a solid top, very high and fast in the somersaulting, but not perfect at the bottom. And this, he has shown us this often. Very good starts and then misses just the entry. Too bad, because this dive gets 7.5 with a mistake at the bottom. Think about this dive with an entry like Jules Boyer, or even the one that Giovanni Tocci did earlier in the front 2.5 somersault. With a perfect entry, this could have scored 9s and 9.5s. Reverse 2.5 somersault tuck for Giovanni Tocci. And with this dive, he scored 60 points in the morning. He'll need more to get ahead of everyone. He needs 9.5s to be ahead of everyone. and it is a good dive, but definitely not 9.5. He was getting vertical at the bottom of the dive. The top was okay, probably just a bit distant from the board, but he never reached back with his hands. That's why the entry is heavy. We saw his coach Lyuba Barskova while she was recording him with the phone. I saw her saying "open" when it was time. Apri in Italian. That's how this Italians say it. And she said "apri" when it was time to kick it. That was interesting. Trying to help, even though obviously she didn't shout it. Okay, after that we have the rankings now. Ross Aslam in first, 277. I had just by 3 points in front of Jules Bouyer and Alexis Gendard at 266. So the French divers lose the lead in this round, but not by a lot. After that, we have the two Italians, Alberto in 6th, James Italy in 7th, Alexander Lube in 8th, Danilo, Jake Morris, and Jonathan Sukov. That closes the rankings. Jake Passmore now, reversed and half somersault tuck, same dives that we just saw performed by Giovanni Tocci. And same as Giovanni, he misses the bottom. Does not do a good job lining up. 54 points for him this morning, and this should score around the same probably, more or less, because it's a bit far from the board and over in the entry, not perfect. Yes, exactly around what he scored this morning, 55-50. So instead of sixes, 2 6s and a 6.5 for him. Alexander Lube now on the board, forward 2.5 somersault full twist for the German diver, 3.2 degree of difficulty. Oh, nice execution. He has not a perfect rhythm on the board. To be honest, he could have done better coming down from the hurdle, but then does a good job with the dive and gets all the way vertical. Not the cleanest of the entries we have seen today, unfortunately for him. 6.5. 6.5 and a 7 are the scores that count. 64 points for Alexander. And he is in first place right now. James Italy now, inward 2.5 somersault pike, 3.4 degree of difficulty. A very, very difficult dive. Requires a lot of strength on the board, pressing down the board in order to get a good response from the board. A good high jump, and especially a lot of speed in the pike position when somersaulting. And he does an amazing job with this dive. This is going to score high. My opinion, obviously I'm not there judging, but look at this. Perfect pike position and a vertical line in the entry. Excellent, excellent execution for James. And just as I said, I hear the 7s and 7.5s for him. It was very, very good. 7.5s and 7s give him a total of 73 points on this dive. 323, and James takes the lead. And we have Alberto already on the board. 2.5 reverse tuck. He needs 8 to be up there with James. He does not get the 8s. He lets the legs fall too far short once he came out of the second somersault. Also, the knees come up too quick, too early off the springboard, and the dive lands short for 6s and 6.5. You see the big arch in his back in order to get all the way vertical. He knows that tiny mistake on the come out. 57 points for Alberto. Next up, Jonathan Sukov, who Unfortunately, after the big mistake on the previous round on the reverse 2.5 somersault, he was in 12th place. And now he's going to show us a reverse 1.5 somersault, 2.5 twist. Nicely done. Very strong off the board. Not bad. Just probably at the bottom, he dropped his chin a little bit. Yeah, we saw it here, letting the dive go over. But still, overall, a very good execution of this dive by Jonathan. 63 points and 291 total points for him after 5 rounds now. And Danilo Konovalov now, reverse 2.5 somersault, but in a pike position. We'll see this dive in a pike position performed only by Ross Aslam later on in the competition. Not bad, not bad. The entry was not also by Alexis Jandard in this round, the reverse 2.5 somersault pike. So we'll see 2 more of these dives. The entry is quite heavy, not perfect when lining up. 6s from the judges, and Danilo Konovalov now sits in 4th place at 303 points. Lorenzo Marsaglia now showing us his forward 3.5 somersault tuck, 3.0 degree of difficulty for the Italian, who got 63 points in the morning. See if he can do better than that this afternoon in the final. Beautiful dive by the Italian. Beautiful entry. And the Italian clan is cheering for him very loudly here in Rzeszów. A perfect top part of the dive and an excellent come out here. Kicks, gets straight, and perfectly nails the entry. 8s from all the judges. They all agreed this dive is an 8. And 72 points for him. He's in 1st place right now. 333 is the score for Lorenzo Marsaglia right now. Excellent job. Jules Bouyer now. Reverse 2.5 somersault tuck for the French diver. Oh, very high. Oh, nice dive. This is going to score high as well. Slightly short at the bottom. The only thing I gotta say about this dive, other than that, extremely high, a nice strong kick with his legs coming out of the somersault, but then his body is just slightly tilted towards the short line instead of completely vertical. A little bit more vertical, and this would have been 9s for sure. Awesome, awesome dive by Jules, who gets up in 1st place, 9 points ahead of Lorenzo Marsaglia. And Alexis Jandard, reverse 2.5 somersault pike, 3.2 degree of difficulty with 8s from the judges. He takes the lead. Oh, beautiful dive. I didn't want to say anything before he performed this dive, but in practice I've seen him before the competition perform one that would have scored 9s. This one, compared to that one, is as strong on the board but not as clean in the water. We see him very, very hard to get vertical. He should have stayed tighter with his core and lined up in a better way, but 7.5 is still going to score very high. 72 points for him. He's in 2nd place, just 4 points behind Jules. Let's see how Ross performs his reverse 2.5 somersault pike. He needs 7s to be in 1st. 6.5 7s. And, ooh, a little mistake at the bottom. I was going to say he's going to get that. Probably it will, but he could have done even better if the entry would have been cleaner. He grabs his arms, his hands, and reaches. You see it here. He grabs and reaches too far back with his hands, so the feet fall over. So exactly sevens for him. Sevens from the judges, and he is now at 344 points. Just 2 points ahead of Jules. Wow, another exciting competition. Let's see how Morris does, even though he's a little bit too far behind, obviously not fighting for medals anymore because of the big mistake in the second round. But very high degree of difficulty here, 3.2. Nicely done, and especially has a very high degree of difficulty on the last dive, that is 3.6. He does a good job here, probably too distant from the board, to be honest with you, to get a perfect score. But sevens from the judges, 7.5, 70 points for the German diver, 305 points, way far behind from the top 3 ranked divers. Giovanni Tocci now with one of his best dives, the forward 3.5 somersault tuck. He could finish very strong. This morning he had 72 points on this dive and 72 points on the next dive, the inward 2.5 somersault tuck. Those are his strongest dives. Let's see how he does. He needs 10s on this dive to reach Ross Haslam. And he does not get 10s. He's too far over for that, but the performance of this dive is pretty good. Very high, very sharp in the air. It came out a tick too late in order to get a perfect entry. Still a very well executed dive. I liked it a lot. We see Clan Italy cheering for him. 7.5 from the judges, 322 points for the Italian diver. And now we have the rankings before the last round of dives. Ross Haslam takes the lead, or stays in the lead after the 5 rounds. 344, Jules Bouillard 342, Alexis Jandart 338. But keep an eye on Lorenzo Marsaglia as well, because he's just 11 points behind Ross Haslam. And these 4 divers are fighting for gold. They have there's Ross that has an advantage on the last dive with a degree of difficulty of 3.4, and the others are all competing twister, forward twist for Lorenzo and reverse twister for the French divers. So interesting, another great final. Last dive of Jake Passmore is the hardest dive of the day, 3.6 degree of difficulty, forward 2.5 somersault, double twist. He performs this dive on 3 meters, and I gotta say, it is extremely hard to complete this dive on 1 meter. Not many divers do it, and we see him landing way too short. He needed an extra 50 centimeters in order to get completely vertical. Very good job though for the youngest of the final, first European Championship for Jake, and an excellent performance by Jake. We'll see him many more times in the future on 1 meter, because he has a great talent. He closes at 327.85 points. And now on the board is Alexander Lube. First European Championship for him as well as for Jake. He closes with an excellent reverse 1.5 somersault, 2.5 twist. He's very well executed. Nothing, not perfect obviously, but nothing to say about this dive. Probably just could have kept it closer to the board, but other than that, he's very clean in the entry, sharp in the air. I liked it. Would have gone probably a little bit higher with my judgment, but sevens, he closes at 376.75, and impressive competition 40 more points, more than 40, 45 points more than this morning for him. Good job, Alexander. Next up, James Eatley. He needs just 5.5 to get ahead of the previous two divers. He was in 5th place, 323. A great dive here, 3.3 degree of difficulty, and a couple of mistakes ahead of him could still give him. Oh no! Failed dive for sure. That he still tried not to balk. Completely missed the hurdle. We see how he just doesn't press, and you see it here. He lands in the water feet first. That is a failed dive for James, unfortunately. Not the final dive he wanted. Too bad, because he still had a chance of getting a medal. I hope I didn't jinx it for him. I'm sorry about that. I was saying how he, with a great dive, he could have still had a chance for medals. Next up is Alberto Arevalo, inward 2.5 somersault tuck. Alberto needs 7.5 to be in front of Alexander Lube, who is right now leading the competition. Ooh, beautiful dive by the Spanish diver. I have a feeling he's gonna get 7.5. This was very well executed, especially the way he came out. Here, kicks and gets vertical very, very fast, stopping completely the somersaulting. And he does get the 7.5 he needed to get in front of everyone. 69.75 for Alberto, better than this morning when he scored 65. And he gets up at 300. I missed that on the screen. I'll have it soon for you. Next up is Jonathan Tsukov, forward 2.5 somersault full twist. .2 degree of difficulty. Nice top. Oh, beautiful dive. Very, very clean in the air. I like the way he came out of the somersault and into the twist very fast, not losing speed. Not bad at all by Jonathan, who unfortunately missed too much throughout the competition because he finished with a very, very strong dive. 7th from the judges, and 358.80 points for him. Is in 3rd place at the moment. Now Danilo Konovalov. His last dive is the same dive as the Swiss diver before him. Forward 2.5 somersault full twist for Danilo, who was in 10th place. Nice dive. Wow. Beautiful dive by the young Ukrainian diver. Very high, perfect pike position and twist, and also the lineup is very, very clean. 7.5 from the judges. 7.5 from the judges, 72 points, a total of 375.60. And now up on the board is Lorenzo Marsaglia. 4th place for him before this round of dives. A forward 2.5 somersault full twist for him. He needs 4.5 to be ahead of Alberto Arevalo, that was in the lead right now. And he gets an amazing dive. What an entry. We see Benedetta cheering very loudly for him because this dive was amazing. Very high and nice twist. The only thing, he completely loses control of his feet. That's the only thing about this dive. 8 from the judges, And a total score of 7. Oh, wow, we saw him losing his feet quite a bit and then getting them back together. Amazing job, 76.80 for him. 8 from the judges. He gets up at 410.55. Very excited, Lorenzo Marsaglia there. Jules Bouyer now, reverse 1.5. Oh, there's a delay. They had a problem with the judges. And now they repeat the scores for Lorenzo. A little delay, hopefully it doesn't get to the head of Jules. And he stays focused and ready for his dive. Reverse 1.5 somersault, 2.5 twist. Jules needs an average of 7.6. So the scores that must count for him to get ahead of Lorenzo are 2 7.5s and an 8. Nearly a very good dive. That's what he needs. And he's not gonna get that. In my opinion, this dive goes too far over, unfortunately for him, and Clemence, his coach, knows he rolled the bottom and went too far over. A good top, not too bad, probably too early in the twist, but then here, when he was grabbing his hands, he lets the legs go too far over. And yeah, 7s and 6.5, and Jules Bouyer falls behind Lorenzo Marsaglia. Disappointed face, because Clemence knew he could do much, much better. 61.50, considering this morning he scored 63. Yeah, with 63 he wouldn't have gotten in front of Lorenzo anyways, but underperformed on this dive, Jules. Still a great dive, but not for gold. And now same dive by his teammate, who was in 3rd place before this dive. Wow, beautiful entry. Let's see if the judges give him 8 and 8.5. That's what he needed to get ahead of Lorenzo Marsaglia. Amazing dive, very high. Perfect lineup and a great entry for the French diver. A couple of 8s, a couple 8.5s, and he gets what he needed by just 1 point ahead of Lorenzo Marsaglia. Alexis Jandart does an excellent job with his last dive, 411.50. Wow, less than a point ahead of Lorenzo. Incredible final round by these divers. Let's see. We still had the leader of the competition until the 5th round. And he needs 7s, 6.5s and 7s to be first. Very hard dive, standing inward, 2.5 somersault pike. And we have a new European champion from Great Britain. I can tell you that already. He needed 6.5, 6.5 and 7, and this is gonna score more, in my opinion. A very good entry. Let's see what the judges think though. And we can hear the pool explode. Team Great Britain is celebrating his new European champion, Ross Aslam, 422.95. What an amazing competition by Ross, hugging his coach, Tony Ali. Amazing, amazing inward 2.5 somersault pike by Ross. We still have 2 more divers though. We have Maurice Baseman, reverse 1.5 somersault, 3.5 twist. Hardest dive of the competition with the forward 2.5 somersault double twist performed by Jake Passmore. Nicely done. Another great dive by Maurice. Too bad he had to retake the reverse 2.5 somersault. If not, he would have been up there with Ross and Lorenzo and Jules and Alexis throughout the whole competition. Too bad. That's very unfortunate, but that happens in diving. 6.5 and 7, 72 points for Moritz. And now we have the last dive of the final. Giovanni Tocci, who was at 322 points. He would need 100 points, straight tens, to beat Ross Aslam. He is exactly 100 points behind. 322, 422 with straight tens. He could still do it, and he needs nines to be ahead of Alexis Gendard at 411. Wow, beautiful dive. Beautiful dive. I don't think it's gonna be nines, but it's a very good dive. This is best dive by far. He's the one that knows to do the best. Great dive, not nines, but 8.5 for Giovanni Tocci. And he closes with 79 points on this dive, 401.95, fifth place for Giovanni. And here we have Ross Aslam on screen, the new European champion. Great diving by the British diver, who in the past 2 chances he had to compete at European Championship on 1 meter, he didn't even make the final, and once he finally did, he won today in Sheshov with 422.95. Second place for Alexis Gendard, 411.50. And Lorenzo Marsaglia, another medal on 1 meter for him, his third medal, another bronze, for 10.55. It has been another excellent competition here in Sheshov. Very exciting, very exciting. A big fight for gold. And we are back live in Sheshov for the medal ceremony of the men's 1 meter springboard final that just finished 5 minutes ago. Here are the medalists on deck behind the podium. The medals will be presented by Land Bureau member Petr Riska. And the mascots will be presented by Miroslav Kvanzniak, Deputy President of the City Council of Sheshov. From Italy, the bronze medal goes to Lorenzo Marsaglia with a total of 410.55 points. An excellent comeback by Lorenzo Marsaglia throughout the competition. He was not in the top 3 until the very last dive, when he did an amazing job on his forward 2.5 somersault full twist. His best dive of the day, 76.80 points on that. Second place and silver medal from France, Alexis Gendard with 411.50 points. Always on within the top 3 ranked divers, Alexis. throughout this competition. They kept a very good average and did an amazing job securing his first medal at Europeans on 1 meter. First place and gold medal with a total score of 422.95 points from Great Britain, Ross Haslam. Excellent day at the pool for Ross. Really an impressive job by the young British diver.